Right now, at this very moment, your body is quietly adapting to the life you are living. It is learning your habits, memorizing your excuses, and adjusting its expectations of you. The most powerful realization is not that the gym can change your body, but that starting today can interrupt this silent negotiation. When you move your muscles with intention, even for the first time, you send a signal deep into your biology that says survival matters, growth matters, and you matter. This is not motivation in a dramatic sense. It is a biological wake-up call. The human body evolved to move, to struggle slightly, to recover, and to become stronger. When you step into a gym, you are not chasing aesthetics. You are returning to a conversation your cells have been waiting to resume. Right now, without asking for permission, your body is responding to the way you live. Every hour you sit, every shortcut you take, every time you delay movement, your biology takes notes. Cells adapt quietly, not with judgment, but with precision. Muscles that are not challenged begin to conserve energy. Bones that are not loaded begin to thin. And metabolic systems that are underused slowly become inefficient. This is not failure. It is design. The human body is economical by nature, always optimizing for the demands placed upon it. If the demand is stillness, it becomes efficient at stillness. If the demand is effort, it becomes powerful at effort. The danger is not that the body weakens, but that it obeys too well. When people think about starting the gym, they often imagine dramatic transformations, visible changes, or some future version of themselves that feels distant and unrealistic. But the real shift happens long before any mirror reflects it. It begins at the level of decision, when you interrupt the automatic pattern your body has settled into. That interruption is meaningful because biology thrives on signals. The first time you lift a weight or choose to move with intention, you send a message through your nervous system that something has changed. It is not loud or immediate, but it is deeply registered. Your brain recalibrates its expectations of the environment you are creating for yourself. Movement is not just an activity. It is information. Each contraction of a muscle fiber sends electrical signals to the brain, reinforcing neural pathways that associate effort with survival. For thousands of years, human physiology evolved under conditions where movement was necessary, not optional. Walking, lifting, climbing, and carrying were not exercises. They were requirements for existence. In the modern world, the body still carries this ancient programming, but the environment no longer demands it. The gym becomes a modern solution to an evolutionary mismatch, a place where you artificially recreate the stresses your biology expects in order to function optimally. At the cellular level, something remarkable happens when you begin training. Muscles experience micro-level disruption, small controlled damage that sounds negative but is essential. In response, the body activates repair mechanisms that increase strength and resilience. This process does not only affect muscles. Hormonal systems adjust, insulin sensitivity improves, and inflammatory markers decrease. Even your cardiovascular system responds by improving circulation efficiency. None of this requires motivation or belief. These changes occur because the body is responding to a physical reality you introduced. The first day you start the gym, you may feel awkward, uncertain, or even uncomfortable. This discomfort is not weakness. It is unfamiliarity. The nervous system prefers predictability because it conserves energy. When you introduce a new behavior, especially one that involves effort, the brain initially resists. This resistance is often misinterpreted as lack of willpower, but it is actually the brain protecting efficiency. The moment you push through and move anyway, you begin teaching the brain that this new pattern is safe. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes neutral and eventually normal. There is also a psychological dimension to this first step that is often overlooked. Starting the gym is not about forcing discipline. It is about restoring agency. Many people feel disconnected from their bodies, treating them as vehicles that should perform without maintenance. When you intentionally move, you rebuild that connection. You begin to feel muscles activate, breath deepen, and coordination improve. This awareness grounds you in the present moment, pulling attention away from constant mental noise. In that sense, training becomes a form of embodied mindfulness, not through stillness, but through deliberate effort. Your body does not measure progress the way your mind does. It does not care about numbers on a scale or comparisons with others. It responds only to consistency and stimulus. Even short workouts, done regularly, reshape internal systems. Mitochondria, the energy-producing structures inside cells, increase in number and efficiency when you train. This means your body literally becomes better at producing energy. Fatigue decreases, endurance improves, and daily tasks feel easier. These changes often appear before any visible transformation, which is why many people quit too early, unaware that their biology is already adapting. Starting today also carries symbolic weight. It represents a shift from passive living to participatory living. Instead of letting circumstances dictate your health trajectory, you actively engage with it. This engagement builds trust between you and your body. When you repeatedly show up, even imperfectly, the body responds by meeting you halfway. Recovery improves, soreness becomes manageable, and resilience builds. This mutual relationship is foundational to long-term health, far more important than intensity or perfection. There is compassion in this process that often goes unrecognized. Many people approach fitness with self-criticism, believing they must punish themselves into change. Biology does not respond well to punishment. It responds to appropriate stress followed by recovery. When you start the gym with curiosity rather than judgment, you align with how the body actually learns. You begin to listen to feedback signals such as fatigue, soreness, and breath, adjusting rather than ignoring them. This creates sustainability, allowing progress to continue without burnout. Over time, active starting becomes more powerful than any single workout. It establishes a pattern of behavior that reinforces identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who moves, someone who cares for their physical system. Identity shapes behavior more strongly than motivation. When movement becomes part of who you are, consistency requires less effort. The gym stops being a task and starts becoming a space where you maintain balance, regulate stress, and reconnect with yourself. Even your emotional state is influenced by this initial decision. Physical activity modulates neurotransmitters associated with mood, such as dopamine and serotonin. This does not create artificial happiness, but it stabilizes emotional fluctuations. Stress becomes easier to manage because your body has practiced handling physiological arousal. You sweat, your heart rate increases, and then returns to baseline. This cycle trains your nervous system to recover from stress rather than remain stuck in it. The most profound aspect of starting the gym today is that it respects the intelligence of your body. Instead of fighting biology, you work with it. You acknowledge that health is not built through shortcuts, but through repeated exposure to appropriate challenges. Each session becomes a quiet agreement between you and your physiology, reinforcing the idea that growth is possible, change is allowed, and effort has meaning. This understanding unfolds gradually, not as a dramatic revelation, but as a steady realization that your body has been waiting for you to participate more fully in its care and function. When you lift a weight or push against resistance, it can look simple from the outside, almost mechanical, but beneath the skin an extraordinary dialogue begins. Muscles do not merely contract and relax. They send messages. Electrical impulses travel from the brain to the spinal cord and into muscle fibers, coordinating movement with remarkable precision. Each repetition becomes a signal that tells the body this action matters, that strength and coordination are required again. The body listens carefully because its primary function is adaptation. It does not ask why you are moving. It only asks how often and how intensely. Then it reorganizes itself accordingly. Inside the muscle tissue, thousands of fibers experience controlled stress. This stress is not chaotic damage, but calculated disruption that the body knows how to repair. Tiny structures within the muscle sense tension and respond by activating growth pathways. Proteins are synthesized, fibers thicken, and connective tissues reinforce themselves. This process is slow and deliberate because biological systems value stability. What feels like effort in the moment becomes investment over time, stored not as visible bulk at first, but as internal readiness. Strength begins invisibly, long before it becomes obvious. The nervous system plays a central role in this transformation. Early gains in strength are often neurological rather than muscular. The brain learns to recruit muscle fibers more efficiently, synchronizing their firing patterns and reducing wasted effort. This is why beginners can feel stronger within weeks, even if their muscles do not yet look different. The brain is refining its control, improving communication pathways that may have been dormant. Coordination improves, balance stabilizes, and movement becomes smoother. What appears to be physical progress is deeply rooted in neural adaptation. As you continue training, your metabolism begins to change its priorities. Muscles demand energy, and the body responds by improving how it processes nutrients. Cells become more sensitive to insulin, allowing glucose to be used more efficiently rather than stored unnecessarily. Fat metabolism improves, not because of willpower, but because the body recognizes a need for accessible energy. This shift reduces metabolic strain and stabilizes energy levels throughout the day. Fatigue that once felt normal begins to fade, replaced by a more consistent sense of vitality. Hormones also respond to repeated movement. Exercise influences the release of growth-related hormones that support tissue repair and regeneration. Stress hormones, which are useful in short bursts but harmful when chronically elevated, begin to regulate more effectively. This balance has subtle but powerful effects on mood, sleep quality, and cognitive clarity. Anxiety softens not because problems disappear, but because the nervous system becomes better at returning to baseline after activation. The body learns that stress can be temporary, that exertion can end in recovery. Blood flow improves as well, reaching tissues that may have been undernourished by sedentary habits. The heart becomes more efficient, pumping blood with less strain, while delivering oxygen more effectively. Capillary networks expand, enhancing nutrient delivery and waste removal at the cellular level. This improved circulation supports not only muscles, but organs, skin, and the brain. Mental clarity after training is not psychological coincidence. It is physiological consequence. A well-oxygenated brain functions with greater precision and calm. What makes this process remarkable is that it does not require conscious understanding from the person training. The body operates on feedback loops, responding automatically to physical input. You do not need to believe in adaptation for it to occur. The body is indifferent to doubt. It responds only to stimulus and recovery. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. A moderate signal repeated regularly is far more effective than occasional extremes. Biology rewards reliability. There is also an emotional recalibration that takes place through this repeated effort. When the body experiences controlled stress and successfully recovers, the brain updates its perception of capability. Confidence becomes grounded in evidence rather than optimism. You begin to trust your ability to endure discomfort without harm. This trust reshapes how challenges are interpreted outside the gym. Situations that once triggered avoidance now feel manageable. The body has taught the mind that effort does not equal danger. Training also improves proprioception, the sense of where your body is in space. This awareness reduces injury risk and enhances movement efficiency. Simple actions like standing, walking, or lifting objects become more controlled. This efficiency conserves energy and reduces strain on joints. Over time, posture improves because muscles that support alignment become stronger and more responsive. Pain associated with weakness or imbalance often diminishes as the body regains structural integrity. Recovery is as important as the effort itself. After training, the body enters a rebuilding phase, directing resources toward repair. Sleep becomes deeper and more restorative because the body has a clear purpose for rest. During sleep, growth and repair processes intensify, consolidating the adaptations initiated by training. This cycle of effort followed by recovery creates rhythm, aligning behavior with biological needs. When this rhythm is respected, progress feels sustainable rather than draining. The gym environment amplifies this process by providing structure. Repetition, sets, and progressive loading create measurable stimuli that the body can interpret clearly. Each session reinforces the message that strength, coordination, and resilience are acquired traits. Over time, the body stops treating exercise as an anomaly and begins to expect it. When movement becomes expected, resistance decreases, and participation feels natural rather than forced. What begins as physical work gradually becomes a form of education. The body learns, adapts, and remembers. Muscles retain memory of previous training, allowing faster reconditioning even after breaks. This biological memory is forgiving, reminding you that effort is rarely wasted. Each repetition leaves a trace. Each session contributes to a foundation that supports future health. The gym, in this sense, is not a place of exhaustion, but a classroom where the body relearns how to function with strength, clarity, and balance. When you step into training consistently, something subtle but profound begins to unfold that has very little to do with physical appearance and everything to do with time. The body does not rush. It adapts on schedules written into tissue, not into calendars. Muscles strengthen gradually, bones remodel slowly, and connective tissues thicken with careful precision. This pace can feel frustrating in a world conditioned to expect immediate results, yet reflects a deeper intelligence. Biology values durability over speed, because systems that change too quickly often break just as fast. In the early stages of training, effort feels disproportionate to reward. You show up, you work, you leave tired, and the next day everything looks the same. This is the moment where impatience quietly tests commitment. What is happening beneath the surface, however, is far from insignificant. Cells are signaling to one another. Structural proteins are being laid down and neural patterns are being refined. These processes require repetition, not intensity. They are invisible, but they are foundational. Without this phase, visible change would have nothing stable to stand on. Patience in training is not passive waiting. It is active consistency. Each session reinforces a message that effort will be repeated, not abandoned. The body responds by allocating resources accordingly. Energy systems adjust, recovery improves, and movement becomes more efficient. The mind, meanwhile, is learning something equally important. It is learning that progress does not need to be dramatic to be real. This understanding reshapes expectations, reducing the urge to quit when results are not immediate. There is a psychological shift that occurs when you commit to gradual progress. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. The question changes from whether you feel like training to how you will train within your current capacity. This reduces mental friction. Decision-making becomes simpler because the habit is already established. The gym becomes a constant rather than a debate. This constancy creates mental space, freeing energy that was previously spent on resistance and self-argument. When the body grows stronger, something equally important happens beneath conscious awareness. The mind begins to reinterpret effort, stress, and uncertainty through a different lens. Physical training creates a direct feedback loop between action and outcome, and the brain pays close attention to this relationship. Each time you apply effort and survive it, each time your heart rate rises and then returns to calm, the nervous system records evidence. This evidence slowly rewrites internal assumptions about what is dangerous and what is manageable. Strength training, in this way, becomes psychological training grounded in biology rather than belief. The human nervous system evolved to protect, not to inspire. It constantly scans for threats and prioritizes efficiency and safety. In a sedentary lifestyle, this system becomes hypersensitive. Minor stressors feel overwhelming because the body lacks regular exposure to controlled challenge. When you train, you deliberately place yourself under stress that is measurable, temporary, and voluntary. The nervous system learns that stress can exist without catastrophe. This lesson is profound because it cannot be learned intellectually alone. It must be felt, repeated, and embodied. As you lift, push, pull, or sustain effort, your body activates systems associated with alertness and readiness. Adrenaline increases, focus sharpens, and muscles engage fully. When the set ends, these systems downregulate. Heart rate slows, breathing deepens, and the body returns to balance. This cycle teaches regulation. Instead of remaining stuck in a state of chronic tension, the nervous system practices activation followed by recovery. Over time, this improves emotional stability because the body becomes better at transitioning between states. Confidence that emerges from training is different from confidence built on words or external approval. It is rooted in experience. You have felt resistance and moved through it. You have encountered discomfort and discovered that it is tolerable. This evidence-based confidence does not shout. It settles quietly into posture, speech, and decision-making. You begin to trust your capacity to handle difficulty, not because you assume success, but because you have rehearsed effort repeatedly. This shift alters how challenges outside the gym are perceived. Stressful conversations, demanding work, and uncertainty no longer trigger the same level of internal alarm. The body recognizes familiar sensations, elevated heart rate, tension, focus attention, and does not interpret them as danger. Instead, they are understood as states that can be navigated. This reframing reduces avoidance behaviors. You engage rather than withdraw, not because fear is gone, but because it is no longer in control. Training also sharpens self-awareness. You become more attuned to signals of fatigue, strain, and recovery. This sensitivity carries into emotional awareness. You recognize early signs of stress and respond before overwhelm occurs. Breathing patterns, muscle tension, and posture become indicators rather than background noise. This awareness fosters self-regulation, allowing you to intervene thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. The discipline of showing up despite fluctuating motivation strengthens mental endurance. You learn that readiness is not a prerequisite for action. Some days feel light, others heavy, yet the act of participation remains possible. This lesson is transferable. In life, conditions are rarely ideal. Training teaches you to operate within reality rather than waiting for perfect circumstances. This reduces procrastination and builds resilience through repetition. There is also a quiet humility cultivated through physical effort. The body provides immediate feedback. If you push beyond capacity, form deteriorates, fatigue sets in, and progress stalls. This honesty encourages respect for limits. Rather than viewing limits as failure, you learn to see them as information. This perspective reduces self-criticism and fosters a cooperative relationship with challenge. You work with constraints instead of fighting them. Mental clarity often improves alongside physical training. Increased blood flow to the brain enhances cognitive function, while regular movement reduces inflammatory processes associated with mental fatigue. Focus becomes steadier, and thought patterns slow enough to be examined. This clarity supports better decision-making and emotional balance. Problems feel less chaotic because the mind is operating from a regulated physiological state. The gym environment itself reinforces psychological growth. It is a space where effort is expected and normalized. Struggle is not hidden or judged. Everyone there is engaging with resistance in some form. This shared reality reduces isolation and comparison. You realize that effort is universal and progress is personal. This understanding softens self-imposed pressure and encourages authenticity. Over time, training reshapes self-talk. The internal narrative shifts from avoidance to capability. Instead of asking whether something is too difficult, the question becomes how to approach it safely and effectively. This problem-solving mindset extends into other domains of life. Obstacles are met with strategy rather than despair. The body is taught the mind that complexity can be managed step by step. Strength also influences how you carry yourself in the world. Posture improves, movement becomes deliberate, and physical presence feels grounded. This embodiment affects social interactions. You occupy space with greater ease, communicate with steadiness, and listen with patience. These changes are subtle yet impactful, altering how you are perceived and how you perceive yourself. Perhaps most importantly, training provides a reliable anchor during periods of uncertainty. When external circumstances feel unstable, the routine of movement offers continuity. The body recognizes familiar patterns and finds reassurance in them. This stability does not eliminate stress, but provide a foundation from which to face it. The gym becomes less about performance and more about regulation, a place where the nervous system is reminded of balance. The psychological resilience developed through training is not aggressive or rigid. It is flexible, adaptive, and responsive. You learn when to push and when to rest. You respect recovery as much as effort. This balanced approach mirrors healthy coping mechanisms. Instead of suppressing emotions or overexerting mentally, you allow cycles of engagement and restoration. Over months and years, this embodied resilience accumulates. You are no longer easily destabilized by discomfort because you have practiced staying present within it. You trust your ability to adapt because your body has demonstrated it repeatedly. Strength becomes less about dominance and more about stability, a quiet assurance that you can meet life as it is, grounded in the knowledge that effort, when applied thoughtfully, leads not to collapse but to growth. Beginning training today is not a declaration of war against your body, nor is it an attempt to escape who you are. It is an act of cooperation with a system that has been working continuously on your behalf since the moment you were born. Your body regulates temperature, repairs tissue, filters toxins, and maintains balance without conscious instruction. When you choose to move with intention, you are not forcing change, you are providing guidance. You are offering the body the information it needs to organize itself more effectively. Human physiology is shaped by interaction with the environment. Muscles, bones, and organs do not exist in isolation. They respond dynamically to the demands placed upon them. When movement is absent, systems downregulate. Circulation becomes less efficient, joint lubrication decreases, and immune function weakens. This is not deterioration in a moral sense, but adaptation to reduce demand. Starting the gym reintroduces purposeful demand, reminding the body of functions it is designed to perform. Movement stimulates circulation in a way no medication can replicate. As the heart rate increases, blood carries oxygen and nutrients more efficiently to tissues, while removing metabolic waste. This improves organ function, supports cognitive clarity, and enhances skin health. The sensation of warmth and sweat during exercise is not merely exertion. It is evidence of systems working in harmony. Over time, this improved circulation contributes to lower cardiovascular strain and greater endurance in daily life. The immune system also benefits from regular training. Moderate physical stress enhances immune surveillance, improving the body's ability to detect and respond to threats. Inflammation, when regulated through movement, shifts from chronic to acute and then resolves more efficiently. This balance reduces the risk of long-term disease and supports faster recovery from illness. Exercise does not make the body invincible, but it makes it more responsive and resilient. Starting today also means preserving function for the future. Strength training maintains bone density, reducing the risk of fractures as you age. Muscle mass supports joint stability, protecting against degeneration and pain. Balance and coordination improve, lowering the likelihood of falls. These benefits are cumulative, building a reserve that supports independence later in life. Training becomes an investment in capability rather than an attempt to correct damage after it appears. There is dignity in maintaining physical function. The ability to carry groceries, climb stairs, and move without pain contributes to quality of life in profound ways. These capabilities are often taken for granted until they decline. Beginning now honors a future version of yourself, acknowledging that today's actions shape tomorrow's freedom. The gym becomes a place where autonomy is quietly reinforced. Training also improves metabolic health in ways that extend beyond appearance. Muscles act as reservoirs for glucose, helping regulate blood sugar levels. This reduces metabolic strain and supports sustained energy throughout the day. Hormonal balance improves, influencing appetite regulation and mood stability. These internal shifts create a foundation for well-being that does not depend on external validation. When you approach the gym with respect rather than urgency, the experience changes. You listen to your body signals, adjusting intensity and volume as needed. Rest becomes a component of progress rather than a deviation from it. This respectful approach fosters sustainability. The body responds positively when it is challenged appropriately and allowed to recover fully. Starting today also invites self-compassion into the process. Many people delay movement because they believe they must first meet certain conditions, more time, more confidence, better circumstances. Biology does not require perfection to respond. It responds to effort, however modest. A single session begins a cascade of adaptations that continue long after the workout ends. Progress does not require dramatic beginnings, only consistent participation. The gym environment, when approached mindfully, becomes a space of learning rather than judgment. You learn how your body moves, where it is strong, and where it needs support. This awareness reduces frustration and increases appreciation. Instead of focusing on what your body cannot do yet, you recognize its capacity to improve. This perspective fosters gratitude, strengthening the relationship between mind and body. Movement also reconnects you with physical sensations that modern life often dulls. Breath deepens, muscles engage, and coordination sharpens. These sensations anchor you in the present moment, reducing mental rumination. Training becomes a form of active presence, grounding attention in the body's experience. This grounding supports emotional regulation and mental clarity. Over time, starting the gym reshapes how you define health. It becomes less about numbers or comparisons and more about function and resilience. You measure success by how you feel, how you recover, and how capable you are in daily life. This shift reduces pressure and increases satisfaction. Health becomes a lived experience rather than an abstract goal. There is also a quiet ethical dimension to caring for your body. It recognizes that your physical well-being influences not only your own life, but also your ability to contribute to others. Energy, patience, and presence are supported by physical health. By investing in your body, you increase your capacity to engage meaningfully with the world. Starting today is a simple decision with layered consequences. It aligns behavior with biological design, allowing systems to function as intended. It respects the complexity of the human body without attempting to control it excessively. Through movement, recovery, and consistency, you participate in an ongoing process of adaptation that supports health, longevity, and dignity. This participation does not demand intensity or obsession, only attention and care, offered repeatedly, allowing the body to respond with strength, balance, and enduring function.